sports fans? Your favorite sportsbook, BetUS.com, is back for our 28th year of NFL action. With the industry's biggest sign-up bonus of up to 200%, BetUS offers our members the opportunity to cash in on all your favorite sports, including NFL, NBA, MLB, and more. We've also got hundreds of new casino games, including the coolest new European slots, and our live dealers are waiting for you at the table. Sign up at BetUS.com today to get into the action. BetUS, where the game begins.
And now, broadcasting live from Las Vegas, the Snake Sports Talk Show with Jake Silva starts now.
Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. We are live here from Denver, Colorado on a Tuesday. Wherever you may be and however you may be watching, thanks for making us part of your day here on the Snake Sports Talk Show. Face joining us. So, man, I had to take in a lot from the past weekend, because now we are in full swing on conference championships, and I'm all for it. Conference finals for both the NBA and the NHL, and also more deals to be made in the NFL. So it's nonstop at this point, but there's a lot to kind of uncover what we just learned from the past, the past playoff games this past weekend. There was
and there's also a lot going on with the owners getting together and voting on a few things and stuff as well. So that's going to be news later on here today.
So with that being said, let's talk about what we just learned from the past weekend. So like we talked about, because now the conference finals are set, I'm going to talk about the NBA for a second before I shift into the NHL. But the NBA, and this is exactly why, there is so much parity in this league that there's not a whole lot of parity in the NFL. And the reason of this is, take a look at some of your past Super Bowl champions, because mostly it's been the Kansas City Chiefs, and they went back-to-back. They were trying to three-peat, but the Philadelphia Eagles stopped them in their tracks. And then not to mention, you had the New England Patriots for years literally win you titles and championships. There's not a ton of parity in the NFL. In Major League Baseball, there's not even a ton of parity either. Because just because the Dodgers had the best winning record amongst Major League Baseball and won the title does not mean that there's parity there. There's not. Because there's always a different World Series champion almost every single year. Almost. And it hasn't even been the Yankees since the 90s. Okay, so there's some of that. The other thing is, too, the NHL, there hasn't been a Canadian hockey team that has won in over 30 years. So it's mostly been teams in the States. And there's no parity there either, because you watch the Tampa Bay Lightning go back-to-back. Who knows exactly what the rest of the playoffs is going to pan out from here. But you also watch the Pittsburgh Penguins go back-to-back. So there's not a whole lot of parity up in there either. But the NBA, there appears to be parity, because there's always a different champion every single year. Okay, you watch the last previous few, where it was the Boston Celtics, the Denver Nuggets, the Milwaukee Bucks, and then you also have, the LA Lakers. So, and even the Toronto Raptors. So there were several teams that were new champions, several of them. Some of them got more championships in their history. Some of them got their first one. So the thing about what's interesting about the NBA and what we're watching as of right now is this was the thing that Adam Silver was mostly talking about, trying to add parity into the league, because he's not a dynasty type guy. He's all about fairness and awareness, and not to mention markets all across America. That's what they're all about. And that's exactly what Adam Silver is about. So by that logic, there's never going to be any back-to-back champions. there won't even be a reigning dynasty since the late David Stern passed. So there's not going to be a whole lot of that. And not to mention, like, you're working with every single market. You were having to work with Milwaukee's market or Toronto or Minnesota or OKC. You're working with everyone's market, which is kind of what Adam Silver was trying to do. To me personally, like the whole parity thing, you're never going to have that in the NFL because there are so many really good front offices in all 30. It's spread across the 32 teams. There may only be about a select few that have trouble, but there's never going to be parity in this league as long as everybody is competitive. And at the same time, they're not working towards fairness. They're working towards, who do we got up on television? Are their markets big enough to basically overfill their pockets? That's really what it's about. So we got OKC beating Denver, and they're moving on. And OKC, and I've kind of felt like this with Denver, as Denver was gashed. And OKC with SGA and Chet Holmgren and multiple others, it's a young team. But they're now going up against a more physical presence in Minnesota. And honestly, I would be taking the T-Wolves in 6 because I think physicality, much need in buckets, and then not to mention the rebounds and time of possession is what's going to be the difference maker at the end of this whole thing. So that's why I think Minnesota, they'd be very perfect for against OKC. If you let that thing linger to 7 games, I think OKC might have a chance. But you're Minnesota, you want to shut that thing down because you're a 6 seed going up against a number 1 seed. You got to shut that thing down. So I think Minnesota's capable of that. And then you got the Pacers and the Knicks. So this is the thing about the NBA parity is we got OKC, Minnesota, New York, and we've got Indiana. 3 of the 4 teams. Hey, let's be honest here. They're not big money markets. 3 of those 4 teams, because New York, they got everything. I mean, they got the Isles, they got the Rangers, they got the Yankees, the Mets, and then they've also got the Giants and the Jets. So they got a lot of them. Okay, it's a big money market, and that's exactly what it is. It's a big city. Unlike Minnesota, which you got the Twins, you got the Wild, and you've even got, the T-Wolves. Okay, but the T-Wolves, was there a really big money market for them out in Minnesota? Did anybody even want to go to Minneapolis or St. Paul? I mean, besides vacations, it's hard. And then Indiana. I mean, you've got Notre Dame, and you've got Indiana now finally relevant in football, but we know them to be a basketball program. Okay, and you go right there from the north and the south, and then you got the South Bend. Okay, and Indiana, outside of the Colts, where they only got like a couple of championships in Colts history, because, of course, that now binds between there and Baltimore. And we all remember the Colts history, right? So then there's OKC. OKC went into a finals years ago with KD and Russell Westbrook and with Kenneth Perkins. So that's the only time they did. There wasn't a whole lot of that market, but it was interesting because they inherited from a team, the Seattle Supersonics. So this is why working with a lot of these markets, this is why the NBA is what it is. But I am actually kind of interested, and I'm a little excited for the future for the NBA in these kinds of regards. I know a lot of people really didn't look at the viewerships and the ratings, but I will tell you this. These playoffs, had we had all of this action and this entertainment and this much amount of physical play in the regular season ratings would have never have pummeled. Couldn't we at least have that for the All-Star game? Maybe do something of like what hockey does with the Four Nations tournament. Maybe that might help boost you up. But I'm excited to see what this looks like for the NBA. Now let me turn our heads to what I witnessed last night or the night before. Okay. This is typical. And I feel sad for this fan base. So, listen. The Florida Panthers, I mean, they are a well-coached team. They are a very well-coached team. Paul Maurice, and not to mention they've got Matthew Tkachuk back on the ice, which is going to be scary for this next round when they got to play the Carolina Hurricanes. It'll be scary for Carolina having to contain it. But Tkachuk, Brian Marchand, Seth Jones, Sergei Bobrovsky. They got so many really good players. But what I just witnessed, and this is something home teams, you never do. If you got home ice, you got home court, you got home field advantage, you got you got the home field. You do not do this. And what I just watched the Toronto Maple Leafs do, I watched them crash land really hard on home ice. It seemed like things were kind of getting a little bit brewed up and interesting in the first period of the game. And then all of a sudden, all hell broke loose by the time that the Florida Panthers started scoring left and right. That game was 3-0. I saw no efforts. I saw nothing but just, once again, the previous game where they lost 6-1, I saw that again. And this is why people are so skeptical about the Toronto Maple Leafs, because you know what they are after I just watched that. Okay. I watched that game through and through. If I'm a Toronto Maple Leafs fan, I'm gouging my eyes out, because the last time the Leafs ever won a championship was 1967. And you know what they are turning out to be? They are the Canadian version of the Dallas Cowboys. That's what they are. You haven't won a championship since 67. And once again, just like Cowboys fans, you're harping about, this is our year, this is our year, this is our year. Your year has been since 67. What the hell was that? I got no effort at all from Mitch Marner, from John Tavares, from Austin Matthews, from anybody. They completely collapsed. I mean, it was an embarrassing watch. I really thought, and you know what? Chase is my witness for this, and you know what? He's holding me accountable for this, because did I not say in my last few episodes, I thought this was the most well-coached team? I was wrong. And you know what? You know the same team that did that to me 2 years ago? Oh, yeah, that's right. It was the Dallas Cowboys. They fooled me. They fooled everyone. And once again, you now have to deal with this constant curse of saying that this is your year when clearly you're all smoke and mirrors. And you know what's hard about this with the Toronto Maple Leafs now? You now have to make a serious decision on breaking up the core four. So, you know what's funny is I don't have the stats up in front of me. I saw it. I swear to you, I saw it up on Sunday. I really did. But the first 4 games, okay, of the core four, just let this sit in your head. The average points in the first 4 games of that series against the Florida Panthers, all 4 of them were almost averaging up high of 40 points. All 4 in the first 4 games. You know what they were in the last 3? Averaging 10. They dropped off miserably. Nobody's playing physical. Nobody is being aggressive on offense. I think this was the kind of thing Craig Berube was afraid of. I could see it in his eyes. He was literally, I guarantee you, he was about to literally scream off the top of his lungs. He's bottling all of this up. But I just am like, look, Leafs fans, I feel bad for all of you. I really do. And in fact, I mean, I watched Steve Dangle, he's a diehard Leafs fan. There are many other Leafs fans I know in the community, and I just feel bad for all of you, because the fact of, just like the Dallas Cowboys, you have to suffer with the idea of, since even winning a championship in 30 years and even getting to one in 30 years, you have to suffer with the consequence of even getting there since 67. I feel bad. I mean, this is really bad. And then you wonder why nobody takes the Toronto Maple Leafs seriously anymore, because of stuff like this. So they need to clean their act up, and it's time for them to really get busy during the offseason. So they have to break up this core four. I don't know who's got to go. I don't know who you trust that's going to stay, but these were all wasted years with these core four. It's been nothing but wasted years. You've had John Tavares since 2018, 2019, and you've got no cup championship. You've got nothing. You've been either first-round exits or second-round exits. And when you do it, it's embarrassing. Hell, I remember watching when the Leafs were playing the Montreal Canadiens, and that thing got to 7, and the Leafs lost. How much more in purgatory are the Toronto Maple Leafs honestly going to go through? Chase, I watched the game. Like, I'm with friends of mine, okay? When I tell you, and this is for any sport, okay? When you have home field, home court, or home ice advantage, that you're hoping you would just end that thing, and you don't, literally get undressed and embarrassed against teams 6-1. What am I to say to that? I mean, and like I said, this is straight purgatory for the Toronto Maple Leafs fans. You have not won a cup since 1967. Hell, you haven't even been to the conference in years.
I mean, there's a lot of bad things that have happened every time a Toronto team has won the championship. Like last time that the Raptors won a championship in 2019, COVID happened.
Oh, yeah. And look, I mean, but at least that team, and then the one thing, this is the one thing I'm always going to be appreciative if I'm a Toronto fan. When that happened, I'm appreciative of Kawhi Leonard. I don't care about the injuries. I don't care about, whether he's silent or, all this other stuff. But he at least helped to build a championship there. I mean, he was the missing piece. Pascal Siakam, Fred VanVleet, and Kyle Lowry, they all followed. So that's why, the Blue Jays haven't won since their back-to-back championships in 92, 93.
Oh, my gosh, dude. Yeah. Like, I remember those championships, even though I wasn't around. I still would, watch the 30 for 30s about them and – just watch old renditions of them and everything. And it was just, the city erupted when it was that time. But, it's just crazy. I
mean, if I got, first of all, what in the hell is Justin Bieber wearing in that game? That thing went viral. And then who else had to comment on it? Oh, that's right. The King of the Six, Drake. He literally had to comment in on his story going, well, it's the Bieber curse. Don't let that man anywhere near Scotiabank anymore because now it's just but it's the whole plethora of the whole thing. I don't know. But like I said, it's like they have so much in common next to Dallas Cowboy fans because they've been harping that it's been their year every single year, and yet they haven't won a championship.
How good are you with the trivia of the championships, like all four major sports?
Oh, God. I mean,
because I just saw a tweet that said, name the year that this happened. The Colts won the Super Bowl. The Heat won the finals. The Cardinals won the championship, and the Hurricanes won.
That was 2006. 2006. Because here's the thing. Peyton Manning and the Colts, I mean, this took years. This took years in the making for Tony Dungy to finally have the defense, and they finally got a plethora of offensive players that worked just perfect for Peyton Manning. And by the way, Carolina they had a remarkable rookie in Cam Ward, not the football player, but the Cam Ward goalie that, was a rookie, and he literally just earned the Canes a Stanley Cup championship. I mean, it was wild. And then not to mention Shaquille O'Neal to the Miami Heat just to team up with Dwayne Wade at the time before LeBron got there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
crazy.
2006, what you said it was the Cardinals that won it? I believe Cardinals. That was, and they played the Tigers.
They did.
Yeah. I mean, oh, good Lord. It's
it's absolutely insane. It's just crazy to think about. I mean, just knowing, looking back at the years that these, when people do trivia like that, name the year that this was, and all these championships.
But this is the thing.
You're there trying to remember the players, trying to remember the moments and everything, the moments when all those trophies were hoisted and everything. So it's great to think about.
But this is what's hard is because right now there's only one Canadian team standing, and that's Edmonton. The last one standing. If they lose to Dallas, then we got another year for Canadian hockey. But it just goes to show you that the States aren't playing around. They weren't playing around.
Toronto or Canadian we could see a Canadian championship, but I don't think we'll see another Toronto championship be the Raptors, the Blue Jays, or the Maple Leafs in probably another 10 years.
Well, but the thing is, because at least you have a history, mostly in baseball and now in the NBA, because you didn't have a history of it in the NBA when, I mean, hell, you had Vinsanity with Vince Carter that was going around, and that was popping, and that was big. And then,
didn't
McGrady
play for them at one point?
Tracy McGrady did play for them at one point. And then there was also Chris Bosh, because remember, this was just before he ended up joining with the Miami Heat. And we all know that was such a big heartbreaker. But by the time Kawhi Leonard came to Toronto and was the missing link to this, everything else just fell into place. Mm-hmm. But the Toronto Maple Leafs, I'm telling you, since 67, Chase, this is insanity. And nobody has seen any lick of relevancy to the Toronto Maple Leafs ever. It's like every single year they are filled with disappointment. They can't seem to get up over the hump. And it's just like I say about Dallas Cowboy fans, because they haven't won since 95. They haven't even smelled the conference championship in years. And yet every single year it always is like, well, the coach, the quarterback, the defense, the coordinator.
The Commanders made it before they did. That's crazy.
But it's all amongst the owner.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't understand.
This was the best draft Jerry Jones has had in quite a long time. So now, I am very impressed with the way that he handled things this year.
I was very
impressed.
But this is the thing, though, is because it seems to me like there is a leaf that's turning right now with Dallas. And I think a lot of that is because everybody knows it. The minute owners get in the way, I mean, that's when all hell kind of breaks loose. But it depends on what kind of owner you are. I mean, you could either be the Washington owners or you could literally be Jerry Jones. You pick one. Because honestly, I would rather have the Washington owner, who I know is invested in this thing and much more invested than what they got their shares on the Philadelphia 76ers.
Yeah, he's more invested in football than he is in basketball, but I think that's because he's making more money in football than what he is in basketball.
Well, and of course, too, if you're a tech company and then you're dealing with this, I mean, that's even more. That's even more of a smile on your face.
And not to mention, like, people more and more people are watching football than what they are the NBA. So, like, of course you're going to put more money into the thing that people are paying attention to the most, because it's just like, you know, you could have a favorite show on TV that you may like, but nobody else likes. But the moment everybody starts watching that TV show, it's going to start being popular. Like Josh Harris could own the Office, but then, you know, Friends comes out and he goes and purchases Friends, and then now everybody's watching Friends and nobody gives a damn about The Office.
Well, but you know what's funny about this is, think about this. I was just watching it. My wife thinks it was ridiculous. But remember, did you ever watch the movie with Jerry Seinfeld when he was describing about Pop-Tarts with Kellogg's in Post? They were both right. They were both rivals. They were both bucking heads at each other because, you know, they were both very competitive cereal companies. Yeah. But then came the Pop-Tarts. And then that was when it all revolutionized, because Post was trying to put something up out there. It didn't really follow through. But then that's when Kellogg stepped in. And then that was when the whole it's a great watch. It's weird at first because it's Jerry Seinfeld, and then it's Amy Schumer as well. And we all know how raunchy she could be, but it's a funny watch, but it still, once you come out with
Pop-Tarts pastries or a dessert.
Now see, there's the unpopular, opinion.
Or are Pop-Tarts a sandwich or a pastry?
Just jelly filled, just nothing but sugary jelly inside it, whatever that, like a pastry.
Yeah, like that whole argument that's going around the internet. I'm like, dude, come on. But no, to be fair, like I've got hit like a little bit of news that I was like kind of, I was surfing the web earlier today, and I know people don't say that they're surfing the web much anymore, but I came across a piece of news for later on that I found interesting.
Well, before you do, we also got a special announcement before we bring the news out. So let's do that.
No. I know. I'm just saying, like this, I was very, very shocked to see that it's a pipe dream, but the possibility of it happening could be crazy.
All right. Well, So we got exciting news along with us here because we always love all of our sponsorships, and Chase and I are happy to announce that we have a new sponsorship by a really good company that is on the boom inside of things when it comes to athletic fitness and when it comes to organic energy, and that is Bucked Up. Bucked Up is now officially sponsored by the Snake Sports Talk Show. Guys, I'm really excited about this one. So, any of you that are needing to get bucked up on your juice, or whether it's pre-workouts, protein shakes, whatever it may be, Bucked Up has it just for you guys. Because to me, I want to get bucked up anytime when I come up into the gym and I have to go for at least an hour. But I need that general fix, okay? And Bucked Up has it all covered for you guys with all of the best healthy ingredients for you to be on the edge of your game, whatever it may be. Well, there's summer goals right now. Everybody's trying to hit them in the month of May. So you're trying to get that summer bod. You're trying to get jacked up. Well, if that's the case, check out and try Bucked Up for yourself. And with the exclusive code, with your discount, use promo code SNAKESPORTS1. SNAKESPORTS1, because there is only one Snake Sports, and that is this show right up for here for your exclusive discount. So go online to buckedup.com and start purchasing your orders. Also, download the app. They got an app as well for you to do your online shopping and your orders mailed and delivered right to your door at buckedup.com. Mobile device, Google Play, and the App Store. Download it and start shopping and get your Bucked Up fitness fix today.
Looking for a show with the best takes and opinions? Want a show with the best coverage around the world of sports? Jam-packed with an all-star interview lineup? Then the best place to find it all, sports and entertainment, is right here. Join Jake Silva on the Snake Sports Talk Show, presented by SeatGeek and BetUS. Weeknights at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific on Sports Wave Network.
Want to find your seat for the event of your choice but can't get one that fits your desire or your budget? Well, my friends, SeatGeek has you covered. SeatGeek is the official sponsor of the Snake Sports Talk Show. With a list of over hundreds of events to choose from, SeatGeek will assure you that you won't miss your seat with the amazing view of your choice at the most affordable price. Whether it's looking for your best seat in the house of your favorite sports team, finding live concerts that get you closer to your favorite artist, or enjoying your spot at your favorite live shows, comedies, and more, SeatGeek has it all just for you. Go online to SeatGeek.com or download the app on your mobile device through Google Play and the App Store. And as a special offer before checkout, use promo code SNAKESPORTS and save yourself $20 off of your purchase of your first ticket, and experience why SeatGeek is the most trusted ticketing app for your next event. Remember, that's SeatGeek.com, and download the app on your phone with promo code SNAKESPORTS for $20 off and find your seat with SeatGeek.
Snake Sports Talk Show is sponsored by Muscle Tech, with hundreds of supplements and vitamins to choose from, all packed with 100% all-natural proven ingredients. You can be sure that Muscle Tech will give you the edge and the boost to train and look like your fit and healthy best, whatever your goals are. Try Muscle Tech today and use promo code SNAKESPORTS to save 30% off your purchases.
Such exciting stuff whenever we get new sponsorships, and everybody knows, and those that are doing podcasts just like we are and really launching your show, there is always hope for sponsorship. There's always hope somewhere. Well, unless if you're the Colorado Rockies, then there really is no hope. I feel bad for them. I watched them last night in person against the Phillies, and it was just god-awful, and only in one inning alone, and that was when they put bell to ass right up at the end of it. But with that being said, let's get over to Chase with the news.
This is the Hot Press.
I know you got exciting stuff for me, man, but let's hear it.
I do. There's a lot to look forward to, but the one big piece of news that I've been hearing, I'm going to save that for the last thing, just because I know that we were talking about, earlier about certain things, but let's get into it now. We had the NFL owners get together today to vote, and they have voted that the NFL players can participate in the flag football competition that is going to take place in the 2028 Olympics in Los Angeles. I like this. I mean, I think that it's a great way to show the United States and how the athletes can compete, but not to mention to be able to have fun. I know the NFL, you know, each and every year they, you know, do so much for our entertainment in terms of the athletic side of things, baseball, football, basketball, and hockey, and they never get a chance to like actually go out and have fun like they're kids again. And when they get to do that in the Pro Bowl, you know, it makes them that much better.
Well, and I also do think, you know, because I understood the concern side. So when I read upon this, you know, this article, I understood the concern side because for all 32 teams, they're just crossing their fingers and making sure that like their players, they are healthy by this point. Because again, you know, we know they're not going to be in pads. They're obviously going to be up and in flags, but of course there is a lot of that. There is a lot of that body strength that sometimes bad foot could often lead to an injury, and we know that for sure, but that's why they cross their fingers up on it. But no, I'm excited about it because at least the international pull, like, will increase. Will that increase to translate into, like, what we talked about, new potential teams in international waters? I don't think it's going to get that far, but at least that gives us a chance to really see out there in the international pool what talent is out there. Because think about it, some of these players that just got signed in the international pool, these guys are rugby players. I mean, whether they're from Brazil or whether they're from, you know, other international countries, I mean, we get a chance to at least see what they may have, and then imagine putting pads on them and seeing exactly how they really pan out in the NFL. But I know that there's going to be certain rules and regulations to this because, again, I don't know how many men that they'll have on the field, per se, for these types of games, because then it would give me an idea of just position-wise. Running back, wide receiver, quarterback, there might be. But you know what the other thing, too, is? That might actually give them an opportunity to maybe get a UFL contract because at least that's like your minor league system, too. So that might give them a shot to where I'm sure you're going to have both Roger Goodell and you're probably going to have Dwayne Johnson there sitting there and just watching it and seeing how do the two of those, like how do the international pool really work really well and hand in hand, because you already have a healthy relationship with college football. But how does the international pool now? How does that end up working?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be very, very, you know, curious to see what's going to happen with that. We have seen a lot of NFL teams either do a lot of renovations to their stadiums or, you know, request money or funding to build new stadiums. We've seen new stadiums, renditions, or even announcements of like the Tennessee Titans, the Buffalo Bills, the Jacksonville Jaguars. You know, we have seen all of these stadiums and stuff.
Cleveland Browns and the Chicago Bears.
Cleveland Browns, and then the Chicago Bears is the one I want to mention. They have now fully announced that they are moving on and moving forward to Arlington Heights for their new stadium. They are looking to try to either build a dome or a retractable stadium roof so that way they can open it in September and October before the winter months get unbearable for Chicago. I know that they are in a big battle with the city right now because I know the city wants to keep it downtown, but the Bears ownership and partnership group wants to move it.
So this is part of the tension between both parties, is because you've seen the blueprints and the location of it.
Yeah,
it's right there near the water. So, but my fear about this is, Chase, is because there are high winds that can do some damage there. And I know that, like, they have ball fields, they've got multi-purpose fields that's out there for either football games or practices or whatnot. And then you've got, you know, an entire, like, I think it kind of looks like an open, it kind of looks like an open shopping center around it before you even get into, you know, the stadium. But I would prefer a dome. And the only reason, you know, what's funny is a lot of these stadiums, a lot of these fields, they're starting to go dome. And look, I don't blame them because, again, if you're Tampa Bay after you just saw Tropicana Field literally get destroyed, with that whole roofing and everything else, I would want a dome myself too, because there are a lot of natural causes I can't control. I mean, that's just usually how it is. It's like, it's like when my wife and I, when we chose to come to Colorado, because again, everything comes into focus from here. It's, are you willing to deal with the 120-degree desert heat weather that Nevada and Arizona and New Mexico always seem to do? Are you going to want to deal with the tundras that are more in, like the Midwest or even a little bit more east? Because there's a lot of those that tend to happen to you. Are you going to deal with the tornadoes in Oklahoma, or are you going to deal with a lot? So there's everything that goes into play when it comes to these locations. But that's why I think you're starting to see more domes being proposed, because of a lot of these natural causes and a lot of these climates and environments, because it is unpredictable from there. I just feel like, I understand the whole situation with it, because again, what's wrong with Soldier Field? What is wrong with that, other than the fact that they're not willing to put any more renovations on that field? But I used to remember the glory days of cold snow, gridiron. They would punch you in the face, kind of, in the trenches, run the ball type deal, because that's what was iconic about Chicago.
I mean, there is only so much you can do before you actually have to build a new building whatever you are. Like
pieces of projects, yes.
Yeah, wherever you are, there's at some point you have to build a brand new thing from the ground up.
You got to think the status of infrastructure. You got to think of, is that going to be stable enough on ground that when you start trenching it and you start actually putting that all together, is all this going to hold? Because again, we're talking about what, upwards of the average capacity, 50,000 people, maybe even more.
It depends, yeah. And even if you do go along the water and everything, there's nothing wrong with that. We've seen Miami have their stadium, the Marlins have theirs along the water.
There's not, but here's the thing, though, is these could happen at any point. I mean, I know Florida. They can happen at any point in time, because anytime it is tropical hurricane season, it often does that. I mean, just look at what happened to the Superdome in New Orleans when the hurricane hit. It flooded everything. But that's why they push so hard for a dome.
I mean, I think part of the reason why a lot of people want to go with retractable roofs is just because of, the fan experience. A lot of fans love the outdoors. They love being in outdoor stadiums, and I think the ability to be able to choose is going to be awesome. But I think the part of the reason why a lot of teams are going with domes nowadays, especially in the cold weather,
they don't want to deal with liability.
It's not just that. They want to be able to host the Super Bowl in their city. Like having a Super Bowl in their city will not only, skyrocket the income. It brings in more people to the city too. That way they can actually get a chance to be like, okay, maybe I want to live here, maybe I don't. It gives them the opportunity to choose what they want to do. So that's a lot of the reason why a lot of these cold weather teams are starting to build domes, and you're starting to see retractable roofs or domes there. Moving on to the MLB now, we have seen a lot of, hitting surges this year. Last couple years, it's been a lot of pitching. This year, it's been a lot of hitting, and I think that's because a lot of these pitchers are either they're changing their motions, or they're changing their stances and everything, or their pitching motions to try to avoid the Tommy John surgery because of the rush clocks, and because of just because of like everything that you're doing, that we're starting to see these pitchers hang pitches in the zones more. And are we away from seeing the dominant pitching performances like we did in the past, or are we entering a new era of the MLB where it's more slugging than it is everything else?
Well, I think what the deal is, and we know this is like the NFL. What do they love more than anything? Offense, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does everybody feel like that the dog days of defense are dead? No, I don't feel that, because again, I think when it comes to trench warfare, you're going to want defense. You're going to want them to stop the run. You're going to want them to rattle the cage of the quarterback and really stutter the offensive line. That's really what you want to do. So I think in Major League Baseball, and again, I was watching last night. I was up in Coors Field and I watched them play the Phillies. And the thing is like, I think ultimately everyone's going to have an ace if you have one, but it's usually solely dependent on what's the strength of your rotation. Because we know that what's the one thing that's going to draw you to a television? Offensive numbers, right? A lot of slugging, anytime that draws them into a television is whenever Mike Trout hits a home run, Shohei Ohtani hits a home run, Aaron Judge hits a home run. A lot of these big namers that you know are capable of hitting those long balls, that's when a lot of people are going to tune into that much more. But
because when did we see a skyrocket in baseball ratings? The Mark McGuires, the Sammy Sosas, the Ken Griffey Jr.'s, the Jim Thomes of the world. Like that's when we started seeing a surge in the ratings of MLB. Yeah, and now you're starting to see the Shohei Ohtani's, the Aaron Judges, the Kyle Schwarbers, the Juan Sotos. Like you're starting to see more and more offense and more like, you know, dingers or just balls being put in play and not very good fundamental defenses. You know, we used to see highlights and wake up in the morning on ESPN's Top 10 and see some spectacular baseball highlight, whether it be the shortstop diving behind second and then, you know, throwing from their back, falling over, throwing it to first base and getting the runner out. We don't see that nowadays. We see a lot of balls being bobbled. We see more people dropping balls. We see more, overthrows and everything. I think that they're getting away from the fundamental side of baseball, and you're starting to see the more offensive surges nowadays.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. And so once that happens, now you're starting to see it. And so, man, did you see that? Look at that. Yeah. Look at this data. We can actually see people's comments on this. Now, there you go. What a nice feature up from there. I like this.
Heck yeah. So now it brings me to my final piece of news that I've got for the day. And we are entering an era where we have had sports be quiet for a while, except for hockey. We have seen hockey add expansion team after expansion team over the past few years, but we have not seen any in football, basketball, or baseball in quite a long time. And I know that there's been several talks over the past, 5 to 10 years about adding some for the NFL and for the MLB. And recently there's been 2 reports that I've been seeing. Now they could just be pipe dreams or rumors, but they are reports where Jerry Jones has been interested in putting up some money to get a baseball team in Dallas, so that way you could have 4 major sports teams in Dallas in baseball, football, basketball, and NBA. And with all of the good news or the good things that's been happening to Dallas, the Mavericks getting the number 1 overall pick, the Dallas Star, making it very far into the playoffs, the Cowboys having a good draft and probably turning over a new leaf for the first time in a long time. It's going to be interesting. Another thing that I've been seeing is Jerry Jones has been also willing to try to put up some money for maybe an expansion team for baseball in Utah. We've been seeing, we see the Utah Mammoth now with the NHL, and we see the Utah Jazz. Don't be shocked if Utah gets a NFL franchise or an MLB franchise in the next 10 years.
So it depends, too, on the location, because right now the only baseball team that Utah has is the Salt Lake City Bees, and that's an affiliate of the LA Angels. So and the thing is like Utah is right now starting to kick up onto the map, and I think a lot of that is because I think with these new owners, because they are they're very clever with their company because they're a high-techy type of company, But the thing is that they earn a lot of wealth, and at the same time, they are smart when it comes to building, a fan base. Because the minute that you see prices on concessions be reasonable and not straining of your wallet, this was the same thing that Arthur Blank in Atlanta, what he preached about, because he's very conservative on that. And that's why I think they well respect Arthur Blank in that.
And that's
reason.
the only Chick-fil-A that's open on Sundays is the one that's inside that stadium.
How about that? That's where like all the chickens are now like very fresh and put up on it. Come on, man.
Yeah.
Like, but the deal is, I could see baseball be successful there. In fact, I mean,
Yeah.
I remember going to baseball tournaments when I was playing at the time in high school, and there was Snow Canyon, there was Dixie High School, and there was Dixie College that also was up and around it. So there is baseball that does go up on there, and I think they do invest in a lot of their tournaments, a lot of their league and legion play. But yeah, I think having a major league state, I think it would be fun. It's just like, I mean, if they could do it right, then what's happening right now with the Colorado Rockies, because in similar conditions and climates, I mean, I've just got to wonder how well the ball travels. If this is a hitter-friendly ballpark, just like what Colorado is with Coors Field, I mean, pitchers are not going to want to go there, but it is a fun atmosphere. Be out there in the weather and the climates. Like, yeah.
How crazy would that be if an expansion team comes to Utah and they get a championship before the Rockies do?
Well, then that'll really tell you what your ownership is.
But we are starting to see where, you know, expansion teams. I out of the four major sports between football and baseball, I could see 2 expansion teams coming in the next 10 years. Because I know that you've talked about how Portland has been working very hard to try to get a baseball team up there. And I know Orlando has also been trying to get a baseball team there. But it is a matter of, like we said, paying the expansion fee, getting the stadiums built and set up, getting the players and the coaches and the GM to these teams, and then building a name for yourself and having a fan base to come watch. That is the difficult part of having an expansion team.
Yep. No,
and
that is the difficult part.
But like, I know that with Jerry Jones, like he was talking about how Dallas has such a very, you know, wide and broad fan base that he has the utmost confidence that if he did try to get an expansion team in Dallas, that there would be fans there no matter what it would be.
No, that's the thing. So I think ultimately it's going to work out for them very well. I could see that being successful, but there's just new money to be made. And that's really what it comes down to. That's why expansions happen. I mean, you think about it, when new construction, this happens all the time. It doesn't matter what state or city you live in. When there is new construction, that just tells you there is a boost in the economy coming.
Yeah.
You know, I know right now everybody's worried about the costs right now on food and a lot of the. And you know what? Look, these are healthy concerns. They are. But it should not have you have an aneurysm over it. I hope not, because then you're going to want to really seek therapy. And we've got good friends for that at BetterHelp. But still, it should give you optimism and hope.
Yeah, I think the only thing that you would have to try to figure out, I mean, for baseball, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. But for football, if you get an expansion team or 2, you're going to have to figure out how the schedule is going to be and stuff, like, and how things are going to be made. Like, do you go down to 1 divisional game per division? Do you go to where you play the new expansion team every other year, or for interleague play, or, you know, per conference? You know, that's just something that's going to have to be figured out. But, you know, they didn't seem to have a problem with it when the Texans came in. They didn't seem to have a problem with it when the Jags came into play. So, like, I think that this is something that Roger Goodell has been thinking about for a very long time. He's been talking with a lot of, like, you know, potential ownership groups, and where there's a stadium that can be built. I see Utah, with the Utah Mammoth and the Utah Jazz being there, I see that as a prime spot for an MLB expansion team and an NFL expansion team. And if you bring an NFL expansion team, call it the Utah Vipers, make it purple and green, and then there you go. You've got it all set up right there.
There you go. No, I'm excited for it. I'm all for it.
I am too.
Chase with the news.
This is the Hot Press.
Only got about a couple minutes here before we really get out, but you know, like I said, I you heard me talk about this Friday, and when the news broke out, I mean, it broke out immediately before we even had the show. But all I'm saying is because, again, I've tried to clarify this with San Francisco fans. Not a lot of them would even listen, and that's fine. It's much like Pittsburgh fans. When I told you about TJ Watt, that's fine. You don't have to listen to me. Okay, I'm not the one who makes all the decisions for you. I'm not the ones who make the bigger decisions up and in these offices. But all I'm saying is take a moment to think about the situation and scenario you are going to be in. I'm sorry, but you're going to be like the Cowboys last year, because what we just saw right now, Chase, is that we saw George Kittle, Brock Purdy, and Fred Warner now get new contracts. Why is that? Because right now, and I think what happened is I was appalled. Okay, do you know how many of the last 18 draft picks that the San Francisco 49ers have made in these past few years? It's been 18 draft picks. Do you want to know how many of them that were hits?
5.
1. Something is telling me
Brandon Ayuk, Brock Purdy.
Well, the problem with Brandon
Ayuk
is that Brandon Ayuk hasn't hit his fullest potential. Like he did that the year before he got the contract, and then
for 2 years in a row, 2 or 3 years in a row, he's had 1,000 yards. And then you also have, out of the past 10 drafts and everything, 10 draft picks, George Kittle's in that mix, isn't he, or no?
I think, George Kittle, because he came into the league, 2017, if I'm not mistaken?
2017.
Okay, so he came in 2017. So we knew what he was up and at that point, but we're talking about like up and in these last recent drafts.
The recent drafts, I will admit, are a little shaky and everything.
Like, this is the thing is because this is why John Lynch really has to get this season right, because that's why I harped upon. If you were going to pay Brock Purdy this money like Tua, I'm sorry, but I would have drafted Shedeur Sanders in the middle of that. Okay, I get the character thing. I get the whole thing. I understand that. It scares a lot of people off, but I'm telling you, just think about it. The stature, the accuracy, the touch on the football, and all of that, that's what Kyle Shanahan loves. But the reason that he's so allergic to this is I don't understand. And I think a lot of this now is because the San Francisco 49ers are showing their hands that they have been shaking these recent drafts. And I think that's why Kyle Shanahan kind of had to have his hands on it.
Yeah, and I think Lynch kind of messed up the chance to draft a replacement for Charvarius Ward or Ufunga, because now, when they went to go pick, they had Jahdae Barron on the board. They had Malachi Starks on the board. They had a chance to draft a top tier corner or one of the best safeties in the past, 5 drafts that we've seen. And the fact is that, the Niners have been known for their defense, and they've been known to, get after it. And their secondary is what's kind of led them to the success. But now you want to go with a defensive lineman. Like, you need secondary, and you pass up the opportunity and you get Michael Williams, who is edge rusher that not a lot of people were talking about.
Yeah. And see, that's my problem with it. And you know what? You see exactly what I see, because you're getting another edge rusher, but then what's going to happen when Trent Williams retires? What's going to happen if your state of your offensive line doesn't seem to be the offensive line you were hoping that they would boom in the draft?
Yeah, and we give Dallas so much shit for the crappy draft picks that they've had, or the chance where they could have drafted like Omarion Hampton or Travion Henderson or Quinshon Judkins or something. Yeah. But the one thing I give Dallas credit for over the past few drafts, look at what they've done with their offensive line. They've drafted Booker this year. They drafted Guyton last year, and then they drafted Smith the year before that. And they have been building in the trenches, trying to get back to that Travis Frederick, Zach Martin, Tyron Smith era of this being one of the best offensive lines, and why Dak and Zeke had so much success when they were here.
Because they realize
Jerry Jones is realizing the best way to win a football game is to protect your quarterback. And you've seen
that quarterback. You give them a healthy run game
to protect your quarterback.
Yeah.
And we've seen that in the Super Bowl with Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, I mean, you got to give them all those things. But that's why Jerry was I'm glad Jerry was able to catch this, because it could have been a lot worse. Yeah. I mean, you know what's funny is that even Colin Cowherd went on and said they were once a great institution and now they're becoming a laughingstock. And the minute that you hear that, it's like, what do? Are you going to get the short end of the stick and feel like you're good? Or are you going to have healthy concerns and then find ways to address them? Why do you think the Rams are literally innovating every year? And they are thinking about Stafford's future. That's why they're hoping when the quarterback falls to them, or if they get into that, they're going to have it. I mean, but that's why a lot of these teams with these smart ownerships and their front offices, this is why their moves are completely different from the other ones that haven't, that kind of missed the curve here.
And it's just the same thing with like Andrew Berry. I talk a lot of people talk a lot of shit about him and everything, but at least he knows what this team needs. We got gashed by the run. He goes and gives you one of the best run stoppers out there. J.O.K. gets injured and this league runs on good linebackers. Well, he goes out and get Carson Schlesinger, one of the better linebackers in this draft class. Your offense was ranked 28th in the league, and you had a hard time scoring points. What do? You go get two good running backs so you can go back to the ground and pound ways that you had with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. You go get a young up-and-coming tight end who had one of the better seasons in college football, and then you get two quarterbacks hoping one of them is going to hit. Andrew Berry saw the weaknesses of this team, and he plugged all the holes that we have, minus the safety. But I feel like that's why he got another first rounder next year, so he can go out and get one of the best safety prospects we've seen in the past decade in Caleb Downs.
Yep, that's why. I mean, I don't know. This might be a little bit hard for them, but we'll see what ends up happening up from here.
I hope the Niners are shit this year. I really are.
And they could be. But can't say we didn't warn you on the show. Like, we didn't give you at least a little bit of that. So.
Yeah, because both you and I had the Niners finishing last in their division.
Yep, we did. We did. All because of that reason. All righty, folks. We got to wrap it up. Appreciate everybody for being up on here. Tune in to Thursday night for our next episode of the Snake Sports Talk Show. Appreciate everybody for stopping on by with Chase and myself. Enjoy the rest of the night, and we will see you guys on Thursday. Take care, everyone.